The West Cornwall Steamship Company was established in 1870 to operate ferry services between Penzance, Cornwall, and the Isles of Scilly. It became the West Cornwall Steamship Company in 1907 and was wound up in 1917. History. The company was formed on 5 February 1870, principally by the shareholders in the West Cornwall Railway. The following year it took over the Little Western from the Scilly Isles Steam Navigation Company, which had been operating on the route since 1858. An advertisement in the Cornishman newspaper on 25 July 1878 gives the timetable for the Royal Mail steamers Queen of the Bay and the Lady of the Isles. Depending on wind and other circumstances, there were sailings from Penzance to Scilly on Tuesdays, Thursdays and Saturdays at 11:15 a.m. and from Scilly to Penzance on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays at 9:30 a.m. Fares were 7s for the saloon return and 4 cabin 5s return. The sailings for the 1878 79th winter service was Penzance for Scilly on Wednesdays and Saturdays at 11:15 a.m., and leaving Scilly on Mondays and Thursdays at 9:30 a.m. For the first time, each of the ferries sailed daily from either Hughtown or Penzance in 1879. On Thursday, the 22nd of May 1879, the Lady of the Isles made record time for the journey from Hughtown to Penzance with a time of 3 hours 12 minutes. Following financial problems, the company was acquired by John Banfield, who set up the West Cornwall Steamship Company in 1907. He already operated 2 steam launches around the islands, Seagull and Shiva, to which he added a 120-ton sailing ship, the Golden Light. The company sold the remaining ferry operating to Penzance and was wound up in 1917. Steam services to the islands were hastily arranged by the government, chartering the Lapwing from a Clyde operator until a new Isles of Scilly Steamship Company could take over in 1920. Vessels. Little Western. The Little Western had been launched in 1858, and transferred from the Scilly Isles Steam Navigation Company to the West Cornwall Company in 1871 for the sum of £2,640. Captain Tregarthen was captain of the Little Western from 1859 to 1870. He had introduced the first sloop, Ariadne, to service Hughtown from Penzance in 1849. Tregarthen's hotel stands on the site of his home and is a Hughtown icon. Little Western was wrecked on the Wells Reef on 6 October 1872. Earl of Arran. The Earl of Arran was a paddle steamer built by Blackwood and Amp Gordon in Paisley in 1860 for service at Ardrossan and the Isle of Arran in Scotland. She moved to Penzance in 1870 but was wrecked in July 1872 on Irishman's Ledge to the west of Nornor. She was 140 feet long and displaced 148 gross tons, and her rusting boilers can still be seen at low tide on the west shore of Nornor. Guide was a wooden-hulled paddle steamer leased following the loss of the West Cornwall's 2 ships in 1872. It was built in 1869 for the Dartmouth Steam Packet Company by John Henry Warren for Harvey and Amp Co. Hale. Length 97.7 feet, beam 19.8 feet, depth 9 feet. It has a single-cylinder engine by Harvey of Hale. It was kept in service by the West Cornwall Steamship Company until 1875. It was sold to Jackson and Ford of London and Milford in 1877, then Joseph Lawson of South Shields in 1883. In 1888 it was resold to John and Amp David Morris P. Lawmain and was reconstructed and converted to screw by Abbott and Amp Co. of Gateshead and renamed Dew Boland. On the 27th of November 1897 it sailed from Malden for the Tyne and its fate is unknown. Queen of the Bay. The paddle steamer Queen of the Bay was built 1867 by Henderson, Colborne and Company at Renfrew for William Moorcock of Morecambe as an excursion paddle steamer with a passenger capacity of 195. She saw service in Morecambe Bay, Lancashire, and then transferred to William Alsop of Preston for use at Blackpool in 1872, before being purchased in 1873 and transferred to Penzance in 1875 after being reboilered by Harveys of Hale. She was 131 feet 6 inches, 136 tons, and had a single diagonal paddle. She was sold to John Dutton of Cardiff in 1883, and until 1885 she was engaged on a number of charters in the Bristol Channel during the summer season. She was then obtained by John T. Hutchins, 1885 in Cardiff, Jesse Laurie, 1886 in Ilfracombe, and the Newport and Amp Bristol Channel Excursion Co. Limited, 1889 in Cardiff. She was damaged by fire on the 22nd of May 1894 on the River Usk and sold for scrap. Gale. The P.S. Gale was an iron paddle steamer built by Robertson and Amp Co. Engineer, Rankin and Amp Blackmore in 1867 for the Campbelltown and Amp Glasgow Steam Packet Joint Stock Company. She was the first ship built by this shipyard. In 1884 she was sold to the Great Western Railway Company and based at Milford in Wales. She was chartered by the West Cornwall Steamship Company in 1887 and 1889 for the season. She was 211 feet long, 23.2 feet beam and 10.6 feet deep. She could achieve a speed of 16 knots. She returned to Scotland in 1891, based at Oban under the ownership of McBrain. She served Gaelic Vir Mull, Egg, Maleg and Skye until she was broken up in 1924. Lady of the Isles. The Lady of the Isles was launched by Harveys of Hale in 1875 and worked on the West Cornwall service until 1904. On the 1st of September 1904, she struck the Heaver Rock. She was beached in Lamorna Cove to stop her from sinking. She was refloated and repaired and with new boilers. From 1905 she was a cable ship for the Royal Navy, and then from 1938 as the salvage vessel for the Western Marine Salvage Co. of Penzance, until requisitioned by the Admiralty as an auxiliary vessel. She was sunk by a mine off Killigurian Head near Falmouth on 3 October 1940. She was 130 feet 6 inches long and 162 tons. Lioness. The Lioness was another vessel built by Harveys of Hale, this time in 1889. She had a 3-cylinder turbine engine and was 329 gross registered tons, 170 feet long, 25 feet 1 inch beam, 10 feet 4 inches depth. She was sold in 1918 to Queenstown as a salvage ship, and returned to Hale in 1928 to be scrapped by Messrs. Ward and Amp Co. Lioness is a legendary area of land reputedly lying beneath the sea between Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly. Melmore. From 1904 to 1905 the screw steamer Melmore was in use for a short time. Deerhound. The Deerhound had worked on the Mersey since being built in 1901, when she was transferred to West Cornwall in 1905. She was sold on to Canada 2 years later, becoming the HMCS Lady Evelyn. She was 189 feet long and 483 tons.